Hey guys, sorry I haven't posted a long form video in like 3 months. We've had a lot of stuff kind of going on the last little bit, and it just seems like every time I go to want to record and edit videos, something else happens. I've tried starting this video now like multiple times, and every time I try, well, usually it makes me just want to cry. If you follow us on some of our other social media sites, you might already know we did lose one of our ferrets, Hagrid, back on June 30th. It was something that was very unexpected. Ferrets tend to be very unhealthy to begin with, and their lifespans vary greatly. If you read online, their average lifespan can say 5 to 7 years, 5 to 6 years, 5 to 8 years. Some ferrets will push like 8 to 10 years, but that's not normally the norm. Hagrid was just like 5.5 years old, and this was not something we were expecting, and it quite frankly sucks. I don't know if I'm allowed to say sucks on YouTube, but it sucks. It sucks so bad. It was around maybe 10:45 in the evening, and I just kind of went to check on them, about to put them in their cages, and he was already laying in his cage, and I already knew something was not okay. I assumed he was having a seizure, and I obviously was panicking. I grabbed him, rushed him to my husband, and he confirmed that he was pretty sure it was probably a seizure as well. So we rushed as fast as we could to take him to our nearest emergency vet, which actually happens to be their normal vet. They are a 24-hour clinic that sees emergencies overnight. My first thought was maybe a sugar crash. Ferrets are prone to insulinoma, which is a low blood sugar issue. So I did what I've read a million times as a kind of an emergency thing to help pick up the sugar, and we were rubbing a little bit of honey on his gums. It seemed to help a little bit, but he still like wouldn't move. And I mean, obviously I had the honey with us as we're driving to the emergency vet clinic, and this video is going to be all over the place, so I'm very sorry, but it's really hard putting into words everything. As we were driving there, I called them because I wanted to let them know we were on the way, what was happening, in case they could do something to prepare, so that way we were not that far, you know, behind on, you know, once we got there, they were ready for him. It's already a 50-minute drive to this vet clinic, and they are the closest vet clinic period that saw ferrets. So we were on our way. I'm calling them, and apparently they weren't taking emergencies that night. I guess whatever vet was supposed to be there wasn't there. I don't really know what happened. I panicked. I flipped out because I did everything I thought I was supposed to, and you know, you're supposed to have an emergency vet that you know that can see your animals, and we were ready and prepared and knew that was an option, and they weren't. So they gave us another phone number to another emergency vet clinic, which wasn't too far away from them. I called them. They were seeing emergencies, but of course not ferrets. Then they gave me another number to the University of Florida. Apparently they had an emergency vet clinic that saw ferrets. Unfortunately, that was in a different direction, and we'd already been driving, and it was going to be like a 2.5 hour drive to get there. Of course, we hurried up and turned around and started rushing there. I called them, verified they were taking emergencies, and they did in fact see ferrets. So we got there as soon as we could. When we got there, Hagrid was still alive. He was no longer actually actively having a seizure, but he still wasn't moving, and he just kind of laid there pretty limp, and they took him back, and it was a long time before they really had any answers. And even though they were able to physically stabilize him, they got his temperature up because it was really cold. They tested his blood sugar level because they also assumed it was an insulinoma crash. And he has never been diagnosed with insulinoma or adrenal disease or anything, so he's been actually clear up to this point. Not to say that he couldn't have developed it. We were actually due for a normal vet visit coming up here soon for them. And physically, they got him okay, but he just mentally never really recovered. The vet explained to us that sometimes during seizures, and it can actually cause, I mean, same thing in humans, can actually cause levels of brain damage. So whatever it caused his seizure, again, we don't know for sure it was insulinoma because his sugars tested okay at the time, and I mean, she said it could have been anything that caused the seizure, but it probably was such a severe seizure, and he just didn't come back okay mentally, unfortunately. So we had to make the really sucky decision and ended up having to put him to sleep because, again, he just wasn't there. And she said that from everything and all the tests that they had ran all night long, that there was really no prognosis of him actually being better. And short of just having him live in that vegetative state, yeah, he would have been alive, but it wasn't the quality of life that we would have wanted for him, and I don't think he would have wanted. Talking about this really sucks. So that's the most recent crappy thing that's happened. We haven't lost any of the other pets, so that was like the suckiest of all the news we wanted to kind of share with our updates. Prior to that, the first bad news that we did get is Jezebel, our wonderful floofy mutt, was diagnosed with cancer. She developed a small bump on her chest. It was actually in the same spot she had a bump years ago that was removed. And she actually just had her normal vet checkup about a month prior when we first saw a small bump. They checked it out. They did a aspiration or whatever, thought everything was okay. And the bump more than doubled in size in just a couple weeks. So I rushed her into emergency because I panicked, and they did some more tests and it did come back positive for cancer. The bump she had before was cancer, and we thought we had gotten it all, but more than likely this is just returning again, and it does go quite deep. It probably was pretty deep last time as well. And we've talked about whether or not doing chemo and radiation would be worth it for her. I mean, there's a lot of things that depend on whether or not a dog would be a good candidate. Her blood panels and stuff all came back actually really good. There was some slight signs that showed that she may eventually have some liver issues. But one of the biggest things is she's going to be 15 in just a few months. So she's not a young dog, and chemo and radiation, while supposedly dogs handle it better, obviously the older they are, you know, the harder it can be on them. And so we have made the decision not to pursue chemo and radiation for her. It just, if she doesn't have a long time left to live, we don't want the last like part of her life to be really crappy. Because like they said, the chemo and radiation may do absolutely nothing, and it may not increase time at all. But we don't think it's fair to put her through something at this age in her life. She already has back issues, and you know, so it's just one more thing for her to have to deal with. We just don't think it's fair. So that's that. I'm sorry there's no pets in these videos. Everyone's just kind of hanging out and sleeping, quite frankly, but I can show you. So Mr. Loki is sleeping over here, and over here is Mr. Thor, just sleeping away. Sleepy is sleeping. Winkies, well, he is either hiding under here or back in his cage. His cage was open. Oh yeah, you can kind of see the door kind of shaking. It just kind of, we're just going to pop that little, oh, there he is. He went back in there. Sometimes that just kind of closes, but he knows how to push it. And J-Bell's up there. So one of the other things that was going on was, well, we got a new RV. That was kind of a headache in itself with moving, packing, unpacking, driving 13, 14 hours to go take our other RV there and trade it in for this one. So 14 hours there and back with 6 pets at the time. It was a lot. We basically got this RV for Jezebel and the cats. So if you saw our short little video we actually put up, it was the video right before this one, we indeed, in fact, purchased a bigger RV for our pets because we're crazy and that's the type of people we are. We had no issues in that RV. Yes, it was smaller, but Jezebel, like I said, is having back issues, and well, she's always had back issues, and until recently, as she's gotten older, they never really affected her. We had her on good like pain management and stuff like that. But because it was such a small enclosure for her to actually like turn around or to move out of the way if she felt like she was in the way, it was actually getting to be the point where you could tell it wasn't really doing well for her. So we got her more space. And we started RVing. We had Midnight, who did pass away last year, but he was like a 19-and-a-half-year-old blind cat who didn't really cat. He didn't climb, he didn't jump. He didn't really need a whole lot of room. And so it really didn't affect him too much. Now that we got these two, accidentally, and they're like normal cats. So they like to climb and jump and play and run amok. So we wanted a cat tree for them. So we did. There's their cat tree next to the ferret's cage. So, well, ferret. That's gonna make me cry again. So they got a cat tree. Plus, as you can see, their own little that. They both have a hidey hole. This shelf was explicitly put in here for them. I will probably do another video that just kind of goes over a tour of the RV, as well as all the modifications we did for RVing with pets. The last little bit that kind of put me behind on videos was Mr. Thor. If you've been following us for a while, you'll know that we found Thor at a campground. When we found him, he was a tiny little 4-pound runt. No idea on age. There was a lot of between his weight, his man parts, as well as his teeth, all didn't really add up on maybe a cohesive age, but neither here nor there. He's had teeth and gum problems like the entire time we've had him. He's had the most foul smelling breath like ever. Like when we first took him to the vet after we caught him, we warned them like he's got a breath problem. It's like the worst ever. They're like, oh, sometimes cats just have bad breath. Well, they smelled it and they said, this is way worse than we could have ever imagined. It's actually why one of his nicknames is Stinky, because the stinky breath. But at first, the vet thought maybe it was because he was living on his own outside. We have no idea how long he was outside for, and that it could have been because of bad nutrition, what he was eating, all kinds of things. So we kind of just were like, all right, we're gonna, you know, make sure he has a good diet, things like that nature. Well, he had a good diet, everything was fine. We were going in for obviously his kitty booster shots after that initial one, and the breath wasn't getting any better. And at that point I was brushing his teeth probably 3 to 4 times a week. No improvements. Really pink, red, inflamed gums, and hi cutie. And really stinky breath still. So the vet actually ended up giving him an antibiotic shot saying, well, maybe there's some underlying bacteria issues, and everything actually went away. And that lasted for a little bit. And right around the time he got neutered, it actually all started coming back again, to the point where one of the mornings we woke up, and when we wake up in the morning, normally the cats are running around on top of us saying basically, feed me, feed me, feed me, and he was not. So we went back upstairs, and he was still laying on the bed, which was a little weird for him, so we're like, okay, well maybe he just was, you know, wanting to sleep in a little bit. And later that day when we got home, he was sitting on the couch that was in here at the time. It's not here anymore. And he was drooling, tongue was sticking out, and his mouth was very, very swollen. So I panicked. I had a very bad panic attack because obviously a swollen mouth's not good. So packed him up, rushed him to the emergency vet. He had a really bad fever, so they ended up giving him some fluids, an antibiotic shot, some antibiotics to go home, and he was actually already feeling better that same evening and was completely fine the next day. Oh, hi, yes. He's my baby. Oh, my goodness. He's my little man. That's my little man. Hi. Yeah, okay. See? You're just the cutest. So, after that happened, the vet at that point then was like, hey, I don't know if I mentioned to you before with all his mouth issues, maybe it could be stomatitis, which was ironic because I had actually brought that up quite a few appointments ago, thinking that maybe that it was the case. Oh, my buddy. Hi, buddy. And so he recommended us going to another vet who was actually better suited for dental work for cats. So we got him in for a consultation with this wonderful vet, and he had to have some teeth pulled. He had a couple front teeth that were very wiggly loose and like jammed in there. It was really weird. He still does not have, oh, okay, bye. He still does not have a for sure confirmed case of stomatitis. If he does go that route, normally the only cure for it is a full mouth extraction of all of his teeth. He did end up having a professional cleaning done, so this way they could really clean like along those gum lines and stuff. So right now we're just kind of waiting on seeing where things go with that. So I'm sorry that I had a lot of sad news to share, and I'm sorry that I'm not the type of person who can keep up on doing videos and social media very well when everything is crumbling and falling apart. If you follow us on our other social media sites, a lot of the times you can actually see what's going on more up to date. But basically we're One Tail Four Paws for Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the places. But if you made it this far, thank you for watching. We're gonna get back on the videos again and hope to see you in the next one.